Welcome to Love Your Life After Divorce, the podcast where you'll learn everything you need to know to rebuild your life after divorce from the inside out. Let's dive in. Hey there. Today I want to talk to you about the perfect age to get a divorce. Now I'm going to cut right to the chase and let you know right now that, spoiler alert, there is no perfect age. I have heard from women of all ages who are getting a divorce or who are recently divorced, and so many of them have thoughts about why their age is the worst time to get a divorce. That's what prompted me to address this. So many women view their situation, how old they are when they get a divorce, how many kids they have, how long they were married. They view this in a negative light. And it just goes to show you that not everybody can be right about this, right? Women in their 20s and 30s who say this is the worst time. Well, that can't be true if women in their 50s and 60s are also saying it's the worst time. So, my point is that I think it's very natural and normal for us to all view our situations in a negative and pessimistic light. And so, here's what I have heard women say. Women in their 20s and 30s who probably weren't married that long in the scheme of things, I hear them say things like, why wasn't I able to make this marriage last? Why did it end so quickly? Why wasn't I able to hold it together? Or why didn't he want to remain married to me longer? They're afraid that men their age won't want to be with a divorced woman. Men who haven't been married yet might view a divorced woman as damaged goods. And if they have kids, they worry they won't find someone who's okay with her having kids. And on the flip side, I hear older women talk about how they regret spending so many years of their life with the wrong person. They wonder if they should have gotten a divorce way earlier because they, quote, wasted all these years. She might feel like she wasted the best years of her life, and now she's nearing the end, and she may feel like she's no longer attractive enough. I've heard so many women say, who's going to want to be with an old, fat woman? They think that they're not appealing enough to men. And so when I hear these two different perspectives, which are actually saying a lot of the same things, but both attributing it to their age, when I hear these things, I see two themes, two different thought processes or perspectives at play here. Number one is a disappointment that life didn't turn out the way they wanted. And number two is fear of the future. Now, these are two overarching themes that I see in divorced women. They are huge. They color so much of our perspectives and they cause us a lot of pain. And I think that I will be touching on these two topics a lot on this podcast. And so today I just want to address these in the realm or in the area of women feeling like the time of their life is not the best time to get a divorce. And let's face it, nobody is going to think it's the quote right time or the best time to get a divorce. But what I want to offer you today is that you get to decide how to view how old you are when you get a divorce, or how many kids you have when you get a divorce, or how long you were married. Your opinion of those things is optional. It is your opinion. You can choose what to believe about those things. And that's really good news because there is no one, quote, right way or accurate way to view the age that you get a divorce or how long you were married or how many kids you have. Now, I've already shared that negative perspective that so many women have, whether they're younger or older, to believe that this is a horrible time in their life to get a divorce. And they come up with reasons why. And I just want to show you that there are also opposite ways to view this that are more helpful and can help you feel more optimistic. But before I get to that, I do want to just go ahead and dive into the reason why so many of us judge ourselves and feel like that we didn't do our life right if we got a divorce at all. I think that is still such a pervasive thought within our societies and in our own brains. It's like logically, even if we tell ourselves that we know it's okay that we got a divorce, or we know that divorce itself is fine, And a lot of us even view it as a positive thing that women are finally able to stand up and leave a bad relationship. I saw a thread the other day in a Facebook group I'm in with men and women where there was a lot of conversation back and forth about why the divorce rates are higher now. And so many of the women were speaking up and saying it's because our grandmothers couldn't leave. Like financially, they could not survive on their own. They felt trapped in these marriages. They couldn't even get a credit card in their own names until the 1970s. They had to get a cosigner on a loan. I don't even know what year that was, but the point is that it is historically accurate that years and years ago, it was much harder on women to be on their own. It was harder to survive without being married, and that's not the case anymore. And so a lot of us women, I think we celebrate that fact. We're glad that now we have more freedom, we have more choice. We don't have to put up with a bad relationship or even just a relationship we no longer want to be in. We don't feel forced to continue that for the entire rest of our lives. And that is a good thing. And so many of us celebrate that. And yet we still have this nagging voice in the back of our minds that tells us that somehow we've messed up. We haven't followed the script that was laid out for us. And to be honest, that's really what it is. All women have been given a script. In the same way that men have been given a script, it's not only women that have been given a script, but we have all been socialized because of our genders to live life a certain way, to show up a certain way, to react, to respond, to act a certain way in life. We've all been given a script. But for women, the message that we've been given is that you get married, you have kids, and you stay married forever. That is the framework that we've been given for our lives. And so when one of those things doesn't happen, women feel like failures. It's unfortunate. I hate it. I wish it wasn't the case. That's one of the reasons I'm talking about it. But I'm just wondering if you can relate to this because it's like when you take a step back on an intellectual level, you may say to yourself, I'm 100% fine with women choosing to get divorced. But then when it happens to you, or when you're the one that decides, there's this guilt, right? There's this feeling that you didn't live life, quote, the correct way, that somehow you messed up. You didn't quite measure up. You're not exactly the ideal woman. And so that's a really big factor that plays into our disappointment that life didn't turn out the way we wanted. We didn't follow the script. We didn't follow the rules. We're no longer, quote, the good girl. If you're a perfectionist, if you're a people pleaser, then that line of thinking is huge for you. It is for me. But the other thing I think, aside from the fact that society gives us a script, I think the other thing is just nobody gets married assuming or wanting to get a divorce. We all enter this marriage relationship, this marriage agreement with the hope and with the expectation that we are going to stay with this person for the rest of our lives. That's what we all wanted when we got married. And so aside from, society's script for us, we also just have our own personal desire to stay with this one person for the rest of our lives, to feel that sense of belonging to someone else, to have that stability, just to have that lifestyle that we've envisioned. And when that is dashed, when we realize that it's not going to turn out that way, it doesn't matter how old we are, it's devastating. It can be so disappointing. And so if you are young, 20s or 30s, and you're divorced, you may feel like now there's this big stain on your life that somehow now you've messed things up, never to be repaired again. Maybe you question yourself. Maybe you wonder if you're really good at making decisions or if you can accurately assess someone else's character. If you chose to marry someone and then they turned out to be a much different person than you thought they were, maybe if they lied and cheated and hid money or gambled all your money away or they developed an addiction. There's so many different ways that our partners turn out to be a lot different than we thought they would be when we married them. And so it can just be so disorienting. It can be so disappointing. And so I get it. I 100% get it. And I think it's important to feel those things. It's important to feel the disappointment. I don't know if you've listened to some of my previous episodes, but I am all about feeling your painful feelings. The way to heal it is to feel it. That's a little phrase that you may have heard before, and it's so accurate. I don't want to encourage you to pretend like you're not disappointed. I don't want to tell you that you shouldn't be feeling disappointed. Of course, you're feeling disappointed. It makes sense. However, you don't want to stay there. So feel those feelings of disappointment. Feel frustrated, feel annoyed, feel devastated. Whatever you need to feel, it's okay to work through those feelings and feel it. But there comes a time when you are not served by that anymore, when it's not helping you create the life you want after divorce. If you stay in that place, just imagine that. Imagine that you stay in the place of just feeling disappointed and of thinking thoughts like, my life wasn't supposed to go this way. This wasn't supposed to happen. This is not what I want for my life. When you continually think thoughts like that, you keep yourself in a mode of despair, of negativity, of pessimism. It doesn't allow you to move forward with life. You basically stay stuck, and that's not where you want to be. And so I want to encourage you and let you know that there is a much different way to think about your divorce, to think about the time in your life that it happened. Instead of thinking, oh no, now I'm damaged goods, you can think to yourself, if you're young, okay, let's address that. If you're younger and you got a divorce, instead of thinking that now somehow you're damaged goods, you can think that now you've learned some valuable lessons. Now you are so much wiser than you were before all of this happened, before you got a divorce. You have a different perspective on people. Maybe you learned a lot about someone else's behavior, and now you trust yourself way more than you did before. Also, when you make it through something painful, like a divorce, then you have a newfound strength. You have figured out that you can go through something really hard and come out on the other side stronger. And so, going through something hard like this when you're younger can actually be a good thing for you. It can create a new identity where maybe you feel like a badass and you know that no matter what happens in your future that you've got it. You can handle it, you can take care of it. You know what to do with those painful feelings. You know what to do when life throws a big curveball. You know how to create something good out of something really painful. And then another thing is, instead of thinking thoughts like, why was I not able to make this marriage last? Or why did he not want to be with me for longer? Why didn't he want to stay in the marriage? Instead of thinking those kinds of thoughts, you can think to yourself, I'm so glad I didn't waste more time with the wrong person. I'm glad that the truth came out as soon as it did, and that years didn't go by, or that we didn't have kids together, or that we didn't have more kids together. There's always a positive spin on what happened. And like I said, it is fully within your control, and it is your choice to choose what to think on purpose. If you are older and you have thoughts like you wasted years of your life with the wrong person, I want you to instead think about all the positive things that came out of your marriage. It may be financial stability. It might be the children that you had with your ex that you wouldn't have had if you'd gotten a divorce years earlier. Maybe it's certain friendships that you wouldn't have developed. Maybe it's a career that you were able to pursue or have because of your marriage. Maybe it's a church community that you found. There are always positive things that came out of those years of being married. Maybe you were able to stay home with your kids for years and you wouldn't have been able to do that if you had gotten a divorce way earlier. And so, again, I just want to point out that there are always alternative thoughts to the thoughts that you're thinking now that aren't helpful. And then also, if you're older and you're thinking that maybe you're no longer attractive enough, I want you to think about this. Men also age, right? If you get a divorce and you're in your 60s and you're questioning who's going to want someone in their 60s, someone else in their 60s, right? I mean, it's we're fed by the media, and it's pervasive among our culture that we should look young, that we should be thinner or fit, that we should have a certain, body type, and our skin should look a certain way and our hair should look a certain way. That is so true. And it's so hard not to fall into that way of thinking. But when you're older and you've lived some life and you have ended a marriage, you know now what's most important. Looking younger, looking, quote, more beautiful in your own perspective, that isn't what's most important in a relationship. Now that you're older, you understand what kind of characteristics you're looking for in a partner. And I'm assuming you don't want someone who only wants you because of the way you look. You want someone who appreciates who you are as a person, who appreciates all the strengths, all the characteristics you have that are unique to you that no one else in the world has. And so I just want to encourage you to think about what type of man you want to be with and whether or not you want your appearance to be the main factor in y'all forming a relationship. So I just want to encourage you, no matter what age you are, no matter how many kids you have, no matter how long you've been married, you have a choice about how you're going to choose to view your marriage and your divorce. It is always available to you to choose to focus on the positive things in the scenario. There's a little exercise that I learned from one of my mentors that she calls equal airtime. And that is when you notice yourself having really negative thoughts about something, if you're telling yourself that this is the wrong time to get a divorce, that no one's going to want you, that you wasted years of your life, that you're damaged goods, if you're thinking thoughts like that, then challenge yourself to come up with opposite thoughts, as many opposite thoughts as you are having negative thoughts. If you're having 5 negative thoughts, come up with 5 positive thoughts to think instead. Here are a few questions for you to ponder. How is this actually perfect for me? Now, this is a hard question, and sometimes it makes me roll my eyes. But if you really ask yourself this and open yourself up for the answer, something will come to you, and it may be even surprising. But it's always a great question to ask. Another good question is, how did getting a divorce when I did bring something positive into my life? When you can accept your divorce as part of your story, and just part of your journey instead of wishing it hadn't happened, then that's when you're able to move forward. That's when you're able to create a life after divorce that you truly love living. But if you are stuck in that story that your divorce shouldn't have happened, that it was so awful, that it was so bad for you, that it was the wrong timing, that it should have happened differently. If you're thinking thoughts like that, you're basically arguing with the past. You're arguing with something that has already happened. You absolutely cannot change it. And it is a complete waste of your time and energy. And so if you find yourself stuck in that spot, I would love to talk to you. Let's get on a Zoom call. I love meeting with you all and just hearing your stories, hearing where you are, hearing where you want to go. I would love to give you perspective. I would love to ask you some questions to help you think a little more outside the box, to help you understand and realize that there are positive things that have come about because of your divorce. And if you don't see them yet, or if you don't think there's enough positive things that have come from your divorce, then it's time to create those. It's time to be intentional and start creating a life you love. It is entirely possible for all of you. I 100% believe that. I challenge you to believe that the age you got a divorce was the perfect time for you to get divorced. Did you know that there are 5 distinct stages to healing after divorce? Which stage are you currently in? And how can you successfully move to the next stage? Find out by getting the free roadmap so you can heal and move on faster after divorce. Simply go to my website, angiewilsoncoaching.com, and click Get the Free Roadmap.